This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium, Episode 34, First Round Strategies, Trading with Hacan. Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. Alright, you're here. We're not putting anything off any longer. We're doing Hacan's episode today.
Yeah, but that's...
We're just doing it finally. Boy, these guys are gonna quit kicking the can down the road.
Right, we are.
We're doing it. Right, Hunter?
Yeah, we are.
We're doing the Hacan.
We're doing the Hacan.
We're doing a Hacan
Hacan episode.
We're doing some sort of Hacan episode today.
Yeah, guys, we are gonna give you part one of an episode. Guys,
what does that mean?
That means we're not doing all of it.
We're not gonna do all of it. We're not doing all of it. We're doing some of it.
Right. So, just to be completely transparent at the top, we sat down to make an outline for a normal episode, and that section of the episode that we devote to trade and commodities was ballooning like you wouldn't believe.
Just exploding.
The episode outline was pregnant with like lots of possible discussion. And also I just felt like, you know what, how about we just cut this baby out?
Our Hacan discussion was a pregnant cat, and it was about to have a litter of kittens all over this podcast.
So instead of introducing you to the mama cat and all the kittens at once, we're just going to introduce you to the litter.
Yes,
and
here's
then
the
meet
litter.
Mama cat next episode.
So yeah, what does part one mean? Why are we doing a part one? What was the litter? You said trade.
So essentially the litter is that the meta and the not only the meta so much as like the way that you conduct yourself when you're playing Hacan and the way that you negotiate your trades is so important that to try and discuss it while also discussing all the other things that you have to do as a con, like all the normal race stuff, seemed obnoxious. It seems like it's going to be a lot easier for us to just kind of define all of the trade stuff, all of the extra stuff that's Hacan only, pretty much, outside of that episode, and then give you a very straightforward, by the numbers race guide.
Yeah, you can think of it this kind of way. Every time we came to a question and I would ask Hunter, okay, so what is your tech path? Well, the answer would vary wildly, and one of the biggest things that kept coming up was, well, are people holding trade over me, or is this one of the games where Hacan just runs away with... Hacan... The powerhouse of Hacan varies so greatly on how the board treats them that it's hard to discuss. Compare this to other powerhouse races like Sol and Jolnar. Sol, you still get planets really well.
Right, well...
And Jolnar, people could attack you early, but, their benefits are outside of the meta. Hacan...
But there's less variance. That's what I'm saying, is that, Sol has, a very distinct, you do this, and it works well for you. A little too well, as far as we can see right now.
Right.
Jolnar, it's you do tech. Okay, cool. Hacan is you... cooperate with the rest of the table and get trade goods out of that. You have less that is just guaranteed, and the variance of your advantage can be completely wild. Yeah, basically.
And we have, over the course of all the games the two of us have played as Hacan, we've had completely different experiences across every single kind of game. I mean,
your Hacan game sounded like Magic Christmas Land,
except for I still lost. Right. It is so hard to say what guaranteed leads to Hacan winning. So let's talk about what we're going to discuss in today's episode. But to get to that point, let's talk about the most recent. We played a game super recently that was supposed to be the last ditch effort to get all the information that we needed. Mm-hmm. And this was a game on Tabletop Simulator with some of our people from our Discord. We played with David S. Knorr. We played with Unaligned Magi, finally. Finally got a full game in with Unaligned Magi,
it was definitely... we got to know him a lot as a player.
Yeah, and we finally... we played with Ledgerman of the Cones, one of our patroners. And so, yeah, we also played with our buddy Connor. of confusing legal text fame.
Right.
So the 6 of us sat down and played on Tabletop Simulator. I was working on Yin. Hunter was working on Hacan.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to actually remember this game very well because it has been a minute, but also we saw something that we had. I hadn't seen it yet. Have you seen this at all yet?
Never seen this.
We saw a player elimination
In round, effectively 2.
Right.
He unaligned Magi. We joke about getting to play a full game with him. In round 2, he got gutted and basically kind of had to roll over and die because there was no way he would ever recover. So he was kind of just like, if you just go ahead and eliminate me, I can go play another game.
Right.
Which they did. They cut him out. So I think it was by round 4, he was 100% out. Maybe
it was
by
literally
round 5.
insane. And it's, I guess it kind of sucks that we are sort of airing his dirty laundry on this podcast now that I think about it.
He's had like 5 plays of the weeks. He's fine.
Right. Unaligned, like this, Twilight Imperium, it's a random swerving game of lots of madness.
This was Unaligned Magi's 67th game of TI4.
Right.
So, you do the math.
Right.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's a good player. But David saw an opening and he went for it, and it was literally insane. It was like, we saw player elimination.
Right.
And then we've just been hearing more and more lately that there's more and more player elimination. I don't know what it is about you people.
Within that week, there were at least 3 eliminations in the Tabletop Simulator community. Maybe 4. I forget if there was a 4th, but there was definitely 3. I played another game 2 days later that had another player elimination. Within 1 week, I had 2 player eliminations.
You people are getting ruthless is what we're trying to say.
It's because we're building up to the tournament and everyone's seeing what they can get away with. Well, let's talk about what that elimination did to the board.
It was a very strange situation because in general, it's weird. I've played with David S. Noor before, even as Hacan, and I was very much like into his meta and playing into it as well. But seeing him eliminate a player pretty much, from that point on, the rest of the table was having so many secret conversations about him, basically.
Yeah.
It was just
a
people
constant
being like, what are we, are we about to see, him snowball? What is about to happen?
There's like a whisper chat function in Tabletop Simulator for those that don't use it. And I was literally whispering all 4 other players, or all 3 other players, I guess, since Paul was out. I was whispering everyone else, just being like, okay, what are we doing about David? What are we going to do now? We have to do something. You don't get to not do something.
Right.
Everyone's going to take part. This is now a war against David, because David has 2 pie slices.
Right.
So what do we do?
Right.
And to kind of throw the kibosh on all that, it ended with David not winning. And in fact, not being in much of a lead, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't remember where he was point-wise.
He may have had a path to victory, but he was not the front runner at any point. And
you won. Matt won.
I won as the Yin Brotherhood. I don't want to talk about the game too much as far as strategy stuff, but I used my abilities 3 times as the Yin.
Yeah.
So cool.
Neat.
Hunter's Law, right?
Yeah, that's Hunter's Law all
howdy.
the way. You get to do it 3 times.
Really loved it. Was really into everything I was not doing as the Yin and all the decisions I wasn't making.
Good.
No, the truth of it is I got very lucky. With objectives, very similar to my Winu game that I won on stream. With these bad races, you rely on that. You rely on luck with the objectives. If I'd gotten a single, I'm serious. If I'd gotten a single objective that was just I'm never getting that. You always have that. You get a secret objective, and it's that's not the one I'm ever gonna do.
Right.
I never had that situation in this game. And that makes or breaks one of these bad races.
Yeah.
If I had gotten even one secret objective that was just impossible, that slows me down a whole round of doing the secondary of Imperial. It slows me down multitudes of ways, and I would have never won had I not basically had every objective lined up for me in an easy, decent way.
Yeah.
It helped that there was an obvious enemy. The fact that David S. Noor did what he did meant that as the Yin, people try to talk about Yin as this sort of mercenary. You can get people to pay you to attack the leader. Well, I don't think that's really true, but you can ruthlessly attack someone. I never got paid to attack David, but no one was encroaching on my territory while I was attacking David, because it was agreed that David is the bigger problem.
Right.
So I had about 3 rounds of not a very well-established pie slice of my own, but everyone was kind of like, we got to let him do his work over there, because if we attack him, he'll retreat, David will run away with it.
Right.
It was seen as, I think to most players, it was probably seen as, if we just let Yin deal with this, Yin's never going to win, because I got lucky objectives, that's why it all worked out.
Yeah,
I was able to do both.
Right. I was hoping to just kind of like stay in the shadows of
Right.
Hacan and just get all my passive stuff done. And I was doing good. I just couldn't. They came down to speaker order in the end. You were ahead.
Yeah.
You were to my right.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it came down to. But that almost sounded like you were about to go into the Yin episode, Matt.
Nope, not doing that.
Yeah, not doing that.
We're
saving that one.
Hacan episode.
When are we going to do the Yin episode?
I'm pretty confident that it will come out immediately after part 2 of the Hacan. There's nothing to delay for me, for Yin.
You're right. Yeah, there's no way it could ever get delayed.
Ever. Never, ever.
Well,
just like these episodes could never have gotten delayed.
Right, these episodes could have never gotten delayed. And if we're being completely honest, we actually recorded the Yin strategy guide before we even got Twilight Imperium 4.
Yeah, we recorded it like 6 months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
called
stuff.
SCPT errata : Yin Brotherhood.
Yeah, it's really good. You should check that one out. Yeah, it's a good episode. All right, so let's talk. Let's meow. Get your kibble, right?
Yep, here we go.
Get your toy. Get your little cat toy out.
We're gonna tease you for the next 6 hours. Hunter, what are we? We're talking about trade today, right? We're talking about the relationships that Hacan has with the board. We're talking about how you hold yourself. What are we not talking about? Let's cover that.
We're not going to talk about tech path.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about units, flagship stuff. We're not going to talk about strategy cards besides trade. Obviously, we're only going to talk about the trade strategy card. We're not going to talk about any of the other contingencies. We are not really talking about the promissory notes.
We're not even really talking about the what makes you a superpower or what your goals are over the course of multiple rounds. A lot of today's episode is going to be kind of like a singular moment look at what happens for Hacan when trade gets played.
Right.
And what are the ramifications of what happens when trade gets played? What happens for the rest of the round or into the next round after trade gets played?
This is essentially what do you do when you play trade? What do you do when other players play trade? And how do you negotiate with people? And what is reasonable to try and negotiate with, and what isn't? And actually, I'm kind of thinking that some of this stuff hasn't really been set in stone yet.
Right.
So one of the reasons that I'm excited about putting this out there is that if you guys smack this episode down, then we will have to figure out what is standard for Hacan.
Right.
Because it doesn't feel like a lot of things really are.
Yeah, so we want you guys to be vocal in response to this episode.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of stuff you disagree with, the things we're talking about on a meta level, if your group works completely differently, let us know, because there are so many things within Hacan conversations that we just can't account for because we have only seen so much.
Right.
But Hacan, more than any other faction, can vary wildly between play groups. So if you play with a group that is just allows nothing from Hacan, is always putting the hammer down. We've had a couple games like that. Or if you have a group that is just we see Hacan as just the way for everyone to get rich.
Right.
If your group always replenishes all commodities, whatever, we need to hear from all of the different metas because it changes what you do as Hacan drastically.
And we're going to try with this strategy guide right now, which this is not a guide, but with this episode that you're listening to, we're going to try and strike a happy medium. We're not going to assume that all the other players at the table are letting you get away with everything, but we're also not going to assume that all the other players at the table are clamping down on you hardcore.
Right.
We're going to try and hit
what's an average
Hacan what's the average expectation? And that's why I do want to know if it feels like this is not average to you, if this feels really off base to you, I want to know because I want to see how much variance there is. Because in trying to put this episode together, honestly, guys, I want a little bit of respect before we get deep into it. This is a very hard race to do this with because Jolnar it was kind of a hard one to do because it's like, oh, like their tech path could be basically anything. But they're at least limited. Their advantage is limited to the entire tech path.
Right.
With Hacan, it's like their advantage is,
all economy.
Right. It's all economy. And depending on how that plays out with the table, that could vary wildly. Like you could be completely shut out and all you get is the 3 trade goods from trade. But with all this talk of like all the craziness, let's get down to brass tacks. What is the on paper Hacan abilities?
Yes.
What is on the
We're not
sheet?
going to cover like the racial tech. We're not going to cover
We'll talk
the flagship. We're just going to cover the things that relate to this conversation that revolves around trade.
Right.
So Hunter, give me, first off, the most important thing to note with the Emirates of Hacan is they have 6 commodities.
Right.
No one else has 6 commodities, and not only that, no one else has more than 4. There is no 5 commodity faction. So Hacan has significantly more commodities than every single other faction. Hunter, what are the rest of their abilities?
So the first ability is called Masters of Trade. You do not have to spend a command token to resolve the secondary ability of the trade strategy card.
Okay, so as with every strategy card, the secondary usually revolves on spending a command counter. This is the same as it was in TI3 for them. They just they will always be allowed to do it. So every time trade gets played, you're getting your commodities.
Right.
You will replenish.
Right. Their second ability is called Guild Ships. You can negotiate transactions with players who are not your neighbor. Very useful. Especially round 1. Super useful.
Especially useful in conjunction with the fact that you have 6 commodities. You can deal with anyone. Everyone else is limited to whoever they establish as neighbors. This gives you a ungodly amount of power round 1.
Right.
When people have no or very few neighbors.
Right.
You have 5. You've always got 5 neighbors.
Well, I would actually like to point out a distinction there. Yeah. It's not that you have 5 neighbors.
Sure.
It's that
you can do transactions.
with them but who are not your neighbor.
Absolutely, but you've got 5 people that you can wheel and deal with.
I just want to point out that the wording is special in that you're getting. It's better than...
It's called the Mentac clause.
Right, the Mentac clause. It's nice. It's very good. Your last ability is called Arbiters. When you are negotiating a transaction, action cards can be exchanged as part of that transaction.
Just kind of little sugar on top, little bit of the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even... This is one where it's like, didn't even really quite need it, but I'm really glad somebody can do it, and I'm glad it's a con.
Yep.
Now, I think the thing I want to cover, and this is going to probably maybe annoy some people, but for everyone who might be newer to the game, who kind of need this refresher, I'm just going to read to you now the trade strategy card.
Yeah, but we want to do it really specifically because there are actually some confusions or misunderstandings about like the order of operations with trade.
Right.
And those order of operations become very, very important when you're the Hacan.
Right.
So Hunter, spell it all out for me in order. Think of this as we're going to break it down into when transactions can occur and when things will be binding versus non-binding. That's where all of this is important. Is these are going to be a bunch of distinct moments, and so each moment means if everything is happening within that moment, it is binding.
Right.
Otherwise, lots of things get split up.
And anytime something gets split, it's non-binding. Transactions, however, before we even get this out there, transactions can occur at any timing.
Yes, no matter what.
But it all, like, if it's going to be binding, it has to all happen within the same timing window. That being said, the primary ability of trade, first, with a bullet, gain 3 trade goods. That happens in a timing. You get 3. Yep. Bam. Next, with a bullet, replenish commodities. That happens in the same in one timing, and this is your commodities. Get replenished. The last thing that happens is you then choose any number of other players. Those players use the secondary ability of this strategy card without spending a command token. Now you're just choosing the ones to do it. They aren't replenishing in that timing.
Yeah, we have gotten confirmation from Dane before about the activity that is happening during this bullet is the choosing. The language could maybe be read as somewhat vague, but the idea is you choose the people, they will then, during their timing window of the secondary, get to do it for free. You are not choosing them and they immediately flip over their...
Right.
Or replenish their commodities. They don't immediately do it. They wait until their turn in order. When the secondary happens, you go from your left in speaker order around the table to do everyone spends 1 token from your strategy pool to replenish commodities. So within the secondary, there are technically 5 or less, depending on how many players you're playing with, but there are 5 other timing windows of each player deciding whether or not they are or are not replenishing their commodities and spending a command counter.
And I want to point something out. We are not normally sticklers for timing windows, but
it matters.
It does matter. And with Hacan, it actually, I think, helps us put this together because we are trying to recommend to you how to play Hacan in a way that is so by the book that it's like you're going to be fine. That's what we want to do.
What is so funny about Hacan is like in doing research for this episode and also just things we've had like sent to us, ideas for plays we've had for Hacan. Hacan is the only faction that I've seen where people try to come up with rules for themselves that like neutralize themselves. Hacan is so dependent on the meta that people have actively worked against it and been like, I am going to operate as though I am a trade computer. Everyone will always know the deal when they come to me, and there is no budging on the deal. Like, people try these things because it's the only faction you can do that with. Like, there is no other computerized faction. Like, you have to consider these things when you play as Hacan. You have to consider how you're going to trade with people. So let's start this conversation of these, why we broke all these things into these sequences by saying, let's say you're the Hacan and you took trade.
How do you be the master of ceremonies for trade when you have this strategy card? And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I am the type of Hacan player that does recommend that you try and take trade.
Yeah.
Lots.
You should, you'll see that when we get to our guide. It's the only time we'll kind of give away like what maybe our first round pick for strategy card is. We won't talk about strategy cards much else beyond that, but you almost always want trade.
Right. So what are the different ways that you can kind of be a master of ceremonies as a Hacan trade player? Well, the first one that I think we see a lot, especially with new players, is to be what we're calling a noble trade czar. This is where you replenish everyone automatically.
This is really common in especially groups where everyone is new. If this is everyone's first time playing, everyone can recognize that Twilight Imperium is so meta dependent and so like, ooh, we got to figure out how are we reading it. It's all a Cold War. Like, we don't want anyone to step out of bounds. And the reaction to that usually is, well, as the trade person, I don't want anyone to hate me. So I'm going to replenish everybody because I just don't want to be the bad guy.
Right.
You're a bad guy if you don't replenish something.
I mean, I could also see, though, in certain groups, the meta might play out that way, where they're like, oh, if you don't replenish everyone, then we all take that as like a threat.
A slight,
I mean, that's not how it works in our games, but I could see that happening.
And in a lot of games, the more you play, the more you realize you have to hold some power in these trade negotiations. So for us, well, first off, Hunter, what do you get if you're the noble trade czar? What does that do for you then? Everyone across the board, you're all going to get to replenish for free.
Well, essentially, you have given away any sort of pre-negotiation power. You have basically opened everything up, and you're just like, all right, well, let's just see what happens, and all the players are going to make trades with each other. You might get nothing, essentially. You might get your 3 trade goods from trade. Like, if all the other players are like, we're just going to trade with each other and cut Hacan out because Hacan is that scary to some people, then, that's bad. Like, I think that being a noble trade czar and replenishing everyone should almost never be done.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it.
Even when you're not playing Hacan. In fact, I think the only race that should ever be a noble trade czar is the Mentak, and it's obvious why. But
this first one, don't be a noble trade czar. You don't have to be a bad guy, and you also limit who gets money.
Right.
Like, it is okay to tell someone, no, I'm not replenishing you right now.
Right.
Because there's going to be a whole multitude of reasons why you may not want to replenish someone, and to give everyone wealth not only just increases the standing of the entire board, but it also could bring you down a notch.
Right.
And this is your only advantage, technically. We didn't read any abilities that were anything else beyond just like you have more access to trade. They don't just gain more money. They don't gain a trade good for every time they replenish. They don't get anything for free. Hacan has to work for everything that they get. So you have to apply that mentality to when you play trade. You got to work for this. You can't just like hope everyone pays you.
Right.
It's not going to be, no one will consider you noble enough to just like, yes, let's all pay Hacan and walk away.
Right.
So what's a different option?
So another way that you could do this that I've seen talked about, and I think is an interesting idea, is to basically be a sort of tax collector, where you tell all of the players, hey, I will refresh all of your commodities for free if you pay me one of those commodities. First things first, because of the timing windows, you decide to choose the players, and then we resolve the secondary. So what that means is that it is technically, by the rules of the game, a non-binding deal. That's just something I'm noting here. I'm not saying that players are that,
sketchy and
that
rude.
sketchy that they're going to not agree to that deal.
Yeah.
But it could happen.
So this is saying flat up, anyone can replenish if you give me one of the commodities. You can do whatever you want with the rest of your commodities, but I want one if you want to be replenished, period. Hopefully you also decide to trade with me and we can make each other rich and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But we're giving the baseline of there's a fee to replenish your commodities.
Right. And what's interesting about this style is that you could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You could make more money doing it this way than the way that we're even going to really suggest. I mean, like, if you're taxing if every player agrees and you tax them, then you're going to get, that's 5 trade goods right there. You got 3 for playing trade.
So 8.
And then assuming you can do 1-for-1 trades, which we're going to for now, that is another 6.
14.
14 trade goods.
If you got any favorable trades, it's more than 14.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
It's hard to imagine, though, that you got favorable trades in a situation that also every single person refreshed.
Right.
But
you start on like a weaker footing, too.
Yeah.
The fact that you taxed everyone goes, I don't know if I want to trade with you.
Right. You probably won't get a lot more than the tax, I feel like. If everybody refreshes, then that might just be like, that might be it for you. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest though, that's 8, that's not, that's not horrible. And then you have a bunch of commodities now, which is good.
But what are the other weaknesses here? How can we, compare this to the Noble Trade Czar? The Noble Trade Czar gives away all power. You just are powerless to what people are going to trade. The taxation, you give away still a decent amount. Mm-hmm. The people have the rest of their commodities, and they may still decide to completely cut you out. So yeah, your worst case scenario is you got paid by everyone. Actually, your worst case scenario is like only 2 people take you up on it. You get 2 commodities plus your 3, like you made $5, and then now those 2 people are going to trade everything else with each other. Right. That isn't ideal.
Right. Not everyone is going to agree. Most 2 commodity races are going to be like, yeah, no, I don't need that one trade good that bad that I'm going to give you a trade
Exactly. This is a horrible deal for anyone with 2 commodities.
Right. So yeah, I think in general, if you just try and play this tax collector style of just asking for commodities, you could make a lot of money, depends on the group, but I think in a lot of situations, you're not going to make as much as you could.
And when you make a lot of money, you will not be liked for it. You will be actively disliked. There's a difference between people kind of like turning a blind eye versus you made a lot of money and it felt like I sacrificed something to let you get a lot of money, and that sucks.
People do not like to just have to pay you and not get anything out of it. Yeah. You can negotiate deals for yourself that are a little more favorable to you, sure, but the idea that somebody is going to pay you and then not really get much of anything out of it, that's not so great.
So the next one we're going to recommend has a little bit of a, I feel like we need to preface it with, you could just go into trade every time kind of like, let's see what we're gonna get. Let's come on up to the table. Who wants to make a deal? Come on now. And like you can just be this auctioneer of your own goods. But I think the problem with that is, if anything, that's where Hunter and I ran into the most troubles of trying to do the guide. Is it's like, well, okay, that changes every single round that you do it. Just like come to the table and like who's ready to do something. Right. So we wanted to come up with a version of, the idea is like, okay, you find the person with 4, you find the person with 2, and you say, hey, I'll give you 4 for 4, I'll give you 2 for 2. We'll swappy, and we'll all be happy. You could do that every single round and just like try to make ends meet. But there is a simpler path. Right. You can do the same thing with what Hunter's calling the pre-negotiation tactic.
Right. So pre-negotiation works like this. When you play trade, you get your 3 trade goods. Then your commodities are replenished. Before you choose any of the players that you're going to refresh for free, you say to them, I will give you 2 of my commodities for your trade agreement. A 2 commodity race is going to agree to that because that is a 2 for 2.
Even trade.
And we solidly set it up. You get the trade agreement and then you refresh their commodities, and all of that was binding.
Yep.
What's great about this is that you are doing all of the negotiation before anyone else has an option to negotiate with each other. They don't even have their commodities yet.
They do not know if they're going to get to replenish.
Right. They don't know, and they probably aren't planning to unless you replenish them. So this way, you're only replenishing under the condition, basically, the implied condition that you don't even have to say that they are only trading with you.
Yes, and you will make that money. You will both make money, guaranteed. Nothing else can happen. You are controlling the situation as best as you possibly can. It's worth noting here, we said offer 2 for a full thing. So what, you've got factions that have 4 commodities and 3 commodities and 2 commodities.
Right.
Are the 4 commodity factions going to take you up on this deal?
Probably not. However, what's great about doing it this way is that you're also doing all of your negotiations one at a time.
Right.
So let's say the first race that I picked to talk to is a 2 commodity race. I do a 2 for 2 for them. With them, they're happy, I'm happy, even trade, everybody's happy. I do another 2 for 2 with another race. Cool, that's great. Now I only have 2 commodities left over. So that's all there is on the table anyways.
Right.
If I come to a 4 commodity race or a 3 commodity race, it is essentially a take it or leave it. I'm going to get a little more, but you're going to get something.
Yes. The other option too is if the table is trying to put at least a little bit of a tighter grip on you, you could always change the deal a little bit. You can do 4 commodities for a 4 commodity races trade agreement if you have to.
Right.
What we're saying is try the other thing first.
Yes.
Try to get because you can get more. If you, let's say you gave 2 commodities to 3 factions with 3 commodities, and you got all their trade agreements, you just made $3 extra.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And that's your goal. Your goal is to make more than your standard 9. Right? You get 3 trade goods for trade, and then just straight up flipping your 6 commodities gets you up to 9. You want to make more than 9. Ideally, you make between 9 and 12. If you make more than 12, you did some real hustling.
You did some very good hustling.
And this is another situation where they probably won't like it for you. A Hacan who makes $12 might get away with it.
Right.
A Hacan that makes like 10 or 11, I don't think most of the table is going to care that much. Right. As soon as you get to 12 or higher is when people start to go, I think we just got bamboozled.
Yeah, you have to be careful. With all of this, you have to be careful about getting too far ahead and the table being upset at you, and then this hurting your ability to negotiate.
Right.
One thing that I would like to point out with this style, you can pre-negotiate, and with the factions that you did not do any transactions with, you could try and tax them afterwards.
Yeah, so you're still going to make all the money you would make by doing pre-negotiation, and if they're really desperate to trade on top of that, you could make $2 extra.
Right, they might agree to a tax. The thing is, in that situation, if you did some favorable trades and you taxed, you probably made so much money in that round that it might be, and this is why this episode is hard to do, and this is a hard race to cover, but if you get too far ahead in that situation, the meta might start to turn against you. So you got to be careful about that.
But what I like about this one, though, is even with that, even if you make a lot of money, you did it all fairly.
Right.
You approached everyone. You said, I'm willing to make a deal. I want it to be a binding deal. Right. Okay, that makes sense. He just wants to, have insurance there. And then to everyone else who decided not to get in on the deal or whatever, you're offering the tax. Most of the times, people just won't want to do it because if they can't trade with each other, then no big deal. But if they're like the person who's actively like, I don't want to trade with Hacan, then you'd be like, okay, that's fine. You're still going to pay me 1 to replenish.
Right.
Now, it's non-binding. They might screw you over, but they're going to look worse than you do.
Right.
So I think this pre-negotiation tactic has the benefit of looking the best. Mm-hmm. You make a lot of money and you don't get very hated for it.
And it all happened one at a time.
Yes.
The thing that I've seen come against Hacan players is when they try and talk to the entire table at once.
Yeah, you can't get away with that.
Right.
Especially with me at the table. If I'm at the table and Hacan just starts like putting it out there, I'm going to put it out there that no one should do the deal. But if you can single one person out and kind of pull them off to the side and be like, we'll do this deal and this is exclusive to you, then you actually get some action.
Right.
On your proposals. Okay, let's flip it around then. It seems like we can make a lot of money if we have trade, and that's why we want to get trade a lot.
You're very safe having trade.
What if we don't get trade?
Right. What if somebody else has trade?
I'll say this much at the onset of this idea. you still need to be an active participant in trade. First off, your commodities are refreshed automatically, so you will be included in conversations whether you want to or not. When trade gets played, your commodities are on the table and are available to people. So you have to think about what you're going to do when someone plays trade that isn't you.
Well, first things first, I want to establish that everything that we just established that you can do, pre-negotiation, taxation, obviously, they cannot do that to you. Don't let them think they can, because they cannot. And don't agree to that kind of thing. Obviously, they cannot pre-negotiate you. Essentially, you're both sort of coming to the table as equals. They don't really have an advantage over you, and you don't really have an advantage over them.
When you have trade, you are the master of ceremonies. When they take trade, they have entered into a sort of competitive alliance with you.
And what are they most likely going to do? We want to talk about two very specific situations. The first one I think is really common, which is that somebody else takes trade, and then they try and they don't want to replenish anybody's commodities because yours are replenished automatically, and then they just want to do what we're going to call an all for all with you.
If I'm Jolnar, I have 4 commodities. I come to Hacan and I say, hey, the best deal you're going to get right now is my 4 for your 6. I'm holding you to this. I'm holding you over a barrel a little bit. If it's an even worse faction, if it's a Sorrel, I'm giving you 3 for 6. They're trying to pigeonhole you into saying, this is your only option to get any money this round.
It's an aggressive play. And I think what we're going to say here is most of the time, you should say no to this deal. The only reason that I'm going to say that you should say yes to this deal is if you have a very real, serious victory point need for those trade goods this round.
If it's an immediate need, if those 3 commodities you're getting from them are going to turn into the third, fourth, and fifth trade good you need to complete the objective this round, okay, make the deal. That's fine. But if objectives aren't out there that matter to resources or influence or trade goods, you can put it off, and you can probably make your money later. So, how do we make our money later?
Well, we essentially treat this round, even though we do not have the trade strategy card, we treat it the same way without being able to pre-negotiate anything. Essentially, you say to the players, hey, if you don't trade with the person that took the trade strategy card, I will buy your trade agreement. So essentially, you kick the can down a little bit for them. They get money right now. You get their trade agreement, and next time you take trade, you are going to make a lot of money, and no one can stop you.
You will make it up. You will basically make your money up from this lost round. Next time you get trade, you'll get all the money you were supposed to get. You should basically offer the same deals. You have a little bit less wiggle room, so you're probably you're more required to be like, I'll give you 4 commodities for your 4 commodity trade agreement. The other version was maybe you can do the 2 for 4. Don't push it. Do not push it, because you are trying to get them to give you something. First off, if you're making these deals with them, they're going to have to spend a command counter to replenish their own commodities. They're not going to do that, but you're competing with the current master of ceremonies, so they're going to try to offer them. The thing is, the best they can offer is their own 4 commodities, unless they have extra trade goods or whatever extenuating circumstances. So if you're dealing with some other race, you need to offer the same or one better than whoever has trade.
What's good about this too is you're kind of going to go after probably those 4 commodity races. You probably don't want to go after when you have trade, because it's hard to convince them to do that 2 for 4 basically, which is what we're looking for. But now, what's interesting is when somebody else has trade strategy card, you kind of just want to go after that one person. You get their trade agreement. Now, when you do what you always do with trade next time, you're going to get 4 extra, essentially.
Because you're going to make your same deals, excluding the person whose trade agreement you already have. This is, we've seen people try to talk about, like, they're trying, I think it's Unaligned Magi has been actively trying to get everyone's trade agreements, but in one round they wanted to pop all 5 trade agreements. I might have misspoken. I don't know if it was Unaligned Magi or not, but someone out there is like made it a project of theirs to get everyone's trade agreements. Hacan is the easiest one to do this with. You can so easily buy people's trade agreements and in one round get 2 people's trade agreements. The next round
Get the other three.
3 more when you play trade, and then immediately pop all 5.
Pop everything.
And that's a lot of money in one round. Again, you just made all your money back that you didn't make when the other person took trade.
Let's talk about another unfavorable situation. One that I would say is probably less common, but could happen.
It's more common late game, mid to late game.
Sure.
When things have started to shake out, and if you're starting to take a lead, this starts to happen a lot.
Right. People will just try and cut you out straight up.
Yep.
They'll just be like, I want to replenish your commodities.
They
and your
took
commodities.
trade
Right.
because they didn't want you to take trade, because they are trying to get you out of this, because they are sick. This is something I do often against Hacan. I don't like how much money Hacan makes, so I take trade and I actively say, I'm making deals with everyone but Hacan, because I do not want them getting that much power. And I'm vocal about it. When I take trade, I say, this is to block Hacan. This is to stop them from making as much. And like, hopefully we can all agree on this, yada, yada, yada. So what does Hacan do?
Well, we're going to talk about those two same situations again. If you need the money this round, you have to offer the more favorable trade. You have to be willing to give 5 for 4 or even 6 for 4 to get your money. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. If you don't need the money, effectively it's the same. Just try and buy agreements from people.
Right. Yeah, you're not getting in on any sort of commodity deals. I'll say this much too. If people really are like trying to hold you back, I think that's even more so when you single one person out.
Right.
If you're getting cut out of a deal because one person is trying to make a power play, someone at the table does not care about their power play. Right. And it is probably the Winnu. And you come to the Winnu and you say, hey, I can give you all 6 of my commodities. They want to cut me out. I will make one person filthy rich right now. Right. Just give me your trade agreement or your whatever, whatever it costs. Make it fair, because you are definitely fighting against this one. You can't come to this on a level playing field. You are coming from this from behind, so you need to treat it like you're coming from behind. Come begging a little bit. Right. And it's going to work out in the meta. It's going to work in how people read you. They're going to see the other person as the aggressor. You're just trying to get your due. This is your only ability, is to make this money. Right. So if you're not making any money, you have negative abilities practically.
It is always better to make money. Yep. Basically. Yeah. And the thing is, what we're trying to establish in this current section that we're in is the idea that if you can't make all the money this round, set yourself up to make more money next round. Yep. Because the other thing that tends to happen in the meta against Hacan is towards the mid to late game, people stop wanting to trade with you. Yep. You have the most flexibility early game. Most of the time, people are not too upset at you. But so that's why I say that, like, okay, well, if you're starting to get cut out, if you can buy up those trade goods, if you can buy up those trade agreements, then people might be willing to play ball with you. And then later you will have their trade agreement and there's nothing they can do, and you will make so much money so quickly. Right. And there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit longer term. We've been really singly focused on just what happens when trade happens right now. How do we extend that to a little bit more of like the whole game? Are we trying to have repeat offenders, or are we constantly changing our target of our trades? What kind of relationships? How do we treat the whole board?
Well, yeah, I think that you can kind of either approach Hacan as like I'm going to do a lot of negotiation. I'm going to try and figure out, how to make the most money every time I do transactions. Or you can kind of go a sort of loyalty path. And
both have their advantages.
Right.
The first the Hunter described, the making the money, again, completely depends on your group. Right. Some groups will let this kind of behavior slide. And if you can get away with it, you should do that because you're going to make more money. Right. But you have some groups, ones that I'm typically involved in, look at Hacan and go, he's just going to always be up to no good. And in that situation, it is usually better to just be like, let's get a ride or die buddy. Let's just like, or however many people it is, let's have loyalty on our side, because loyalty will pay more than what you lose in trying to make deals all the time.
Right. And I have played games where I've done it both ways. And yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. But let's talk about the idea of having a partner at the table. Basically, the way a partnership is going to work is you're going to pick one player and you're going to be like, okay, the two of us are going to solely trade. And essentially, this deal is great for both of you, because the idea is that you're always going to get kind of your minimum which is, if you have the trade strategy card, obviously that's 9,
Right.
6 your commodities plus 3 that you get for trade. And then essentially what you're going to ensure for them is that they always have their maximum commodities. Maybe they're going to tax you one, maybe you're going to tax them one. It depends.
Yeah, you can change the deal slightly, but you make the point of it's you and me, buddy, every time. My offer is always on the table. If I take trade, I will always offer to you first. When you take trade, I will always be ready to make this same deal with you.
Right. And essentially how this works is you trade you do equal trades. You give all your commodities to them. You do an all for all.
Yep.
Sorry. Essentially, you do an all for all, and then they give you back, and this is the part that is just on their word, they give you back the extra money that they made.
Right.
The reason that this would be in their interest to do it is the alternative to this is Hacan trading with everyone and spreading the wealth around everywhere.
Right.
Essentially, the way you can pitch this to somebody is, listen, if you'll just be my buddy and essentially currency exchange for me, just turn my commodities into trade goods, then you will be able to get the same amount of money you would have gotten had I negotiated with the entire table, but now they get less.
Right.
And honestly, I've been on the other side of this and felt like I was actually kind of frustrating the rest of the table. And the rest of the table was like, wow, we can't find a way into Hacan right now.
Yeah, it is always very frustrating as a third party, because there really isn't a better, especially if you're like if you're extra with 4 commodities, who else is making a better deal?
Right.
I mean, almost nobody. Like, Sol could try to get in there, but like Hacan can look at Sol and be like, you don't need the help.
Right.
Jolnar, you don't, like, if you are a 4 commodity race, Ghosts, Xcha, Yin, is Yin 4? Not Yin.
No.
I meant Winu.
Winu.
If you're any of those factions with 4 commodities and kind of deemed as like a little bit weaker of a faction, so easy to just like have Hacan be your buddy forever, and no one else can interject. There's no one with a better argument.
I've seen 3 commodity races do it too. I've seen Arborec do it. I have seen Barony look for it.
Depends on positioning and a lot of factors. Who absent of factions, who are the best people to try to make these offers to?
Well, if we're having trouble finding a partner, I think it's best to go, and I have done this once. The first time I kind of just like, not discovered this, because I'm not the first person to play like this, but the first time it occurred to me to do this, I was getting shot out of trade, and there was a leader. Someone had taken the lead. They were at 5. They had taken Mechatol. And I was just like, what if I just trade with them? And they gave me favorable trades, and I ensured that they always had some trade goods, and they ensured that I always had my minimum. And it worked because they needed a buddy. The whole table was turning against them.
Right.
And they were just like, you know what? I'm not going to play along with the rest of the table. Yeah, Hacan, I will come.
Yep.
I will come to the call.
What sucks about this version is that it makes the table not like you, but they still hate the other guy more.
Right, and the other guy is the one who's maybe about to win. So, regardless of how much hate they have for you, it's like, well, we got to focus on that.
I will say this much. I think Hacan is one of the best factions at winning after someone else just didn't win.
For sure.
You set up a target, you funnel money into them, they do very well, the whole table spends all of their best action cards and all their best things on stopping them, and then you happen to have also been able to score a 10th victory point this round. Hacan is so good at pulling that maneuver off.
Right.
Who else might we want to target, though?
Anyone weak. Anyone who's fallen behind. A 2 commodity race that isn't doing well. Sardak Nor.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe Sardak Nor, in exchange for 2, maybe Sardak Nor is a little, like, gives you their promissory note or something like that,
right?
So that it can be that they get 3, whatever. They just ensure that, like, all right, well, I'm always gonna have these trade goods and I need them. Sardak Nor would love to have an insured 2 trade good deal happening.
And even outside of factions, just like if someone took a big hit one round, there they are. There's your new buddy.
Right.
There's like anyone who's 2 points behind the pack. They might be an option. Sometimes people kind of roll over and die in that situation. Maybe you find the person in the pack but still at the bottom.
Right.
Tied for second to last.
Right.
You just make one of them your buddies. Whoever it looks like doesn't have the clearest approach, because what you can do is make money off of the people who probably don't actually have much of a shot. And what that has guaranteed you is you have a buddy that probably won't do as much to hurt you when you spring for the victory.
Right. Kind of the weaknesses of this approach, though, is that technically we are recommending this is a non-binding kind of deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're just giving you trade goods back on good faith.
Right.
Having maybe a support for the throne maybe helps ensure this a little bit better.
And it instills the fact that you are trying to make this a real relationship. You are trying to be loyal to these people. That's the whole reason you're doing this, is to get away from the non-loyalty that people think Hacan has. This is like one of the situations where I'm like, maybe both of you do a support for the throne,
Right.
Because let's just establish in as many terms as we can, the two of us are trade partners.
Right.
Forever.
Yeah, or you could even do the same thing with ceasefires, just as a little like, hey, it's ceasefires are not permanent, but everyone knows like it's as long as you have 2 weak spots, a ceasefire isn't really going to work that much. Right. But it's still something, and it helps as a deterrent. I'll say this: this is something that's kind of hard to propose yourself as the Hacan.
Yep.
I have been courted by people in games before where they've been like, basically what happened is they were like, I will give you my support for the throne if you will only trade with me, and I will make sure that you get your kind of minimum.
I agree with that. It is hard to propose. If Hacan came to me looking to make that deal, I might be a little precarious. I don't know that I would love that.
Yeah, I don't know that I would love it either. I would definitely, if I wasn't playing Hacan, now we're getting real weird. If I wasn't playing Hacan, I would probably try and get this deal.
Right.
But I would not want to give them my support for the throne for it. I never liked to do that.
It's a weird, to do a partnership is just a weird concept in general, kind of because it goes back to some of our old like debates about just like, what are you supposed to do? Is it good to only benefit one other person and build you both up? Maybe yes, but it's kind of a sketchy debate. What's the next kind of option?
The next one we've sort of like touched on when we were talking about pre-negotiation and stuff like that. Generally, you're going to do that with a trio.
Yep.
And I just want to bring it up again to say that if you can make it a trio that it does not include your neighbors, that is probably the best deal.
Right.
If you've got a 2 commodity race, 3 commodity race across from you, and you are only negotiating with them, and they are just kind of this like, I fund the 3 of you, and that's it, that is such a good setup.
Right. If you can, let's say it's a 6-player board, if you have yourself and then one step away from you, so your neighbor of your neighbor is a 3 commodity, and then the neighbor of your other neighbor is also a 3 commodity, and the 3 of you enter into this kind of trade alliance, you can always get your fair amount, and not only have you protected yourself against your neighbor by boosting up their neighbor, they're getting the same deal out of it as well. You've made this kind of trade triangle across the entire table, and it gives you all the opportunity to kind of rise above your station and hopefully get more out of it.
Let's talk about, I think I've got 2, maybe 3 factions I want to call out as not good trade partners really under most circumstances. So like if a Jolnar per se offered me this deal of like, I'll give you my support for the throne and then me and you just trade, a Jolnar player with E-Res siphons, if you're even giving them their baseline 4, they can make a lot of weird money that way.
Yeah, you need to get a lot out of Jolnar to be their trade partner. The 2 of you need to come up with a lot more conditional things. You need to get that research agreement a lot. It actually is not as simple as just like 4 for 4, right, buddy? Everyone knows Jolnar is going to get more than that. So you need to probably keep it out of Jolnar's hands. I would also throw Sol out there, even though we had a game recently where Sol and Hacan teamed up, but they also eliminated another player. That's the second elimination in 1 week that I had, and the 2 of them took over one other player's price slice, and they had a pretty interesting relationship the whole game. But I think, generally speaking, Hacan should not be funding Sol. Because Sol has enough advantages.
They have enough advantages. You're not looking to help the leaders so much.
I mean, we recommend you help the person in the lead. I guess my point is Sol is the one that is like too dangerous. Like people won't do enough. You need a leader that can be stopped.
When I say leader, I think I mean like in the rankings. Like we're not looking to help the other like superpower races that seem to be ahead in general.
Yeah.
I think SAR early game doesn't need your help at all.
Yeah.
You don't need to be funneling money to SAR when they have all of those trade goods they get early. You don't want to see that happen. You don't want to see it come out round one and you didn't even make as much money as SAR, basically.
Right.
We've talked at length now about like the types of trade relationships you can have. We've talked about like how to negotiate, how to behave during trade. Let's talk about what to do if the deals didn't work out and now you have 6 commodities sitting on your sheet. What can you do with those?
Right.
And there's even some situations, I would say, where you might actually want to just have those commodities and use them to buy certain things. What are the things you can buy? Obviously, promissory notes.
Yep.
What are some of the ones?
6 commodities, nothing for you effectively. Giving someone 6 trade goods, that is easily worth a support for the throne.
Yes.
Hacan is the only faction that can just like, I'll just give you all my commodities for a support for the throne. You'll find people that will take you up on that.
Oh, for sure. And I think that it might even be worth a shot first round most games to say maybe
you don't need a round 1 economic advantage and could just get a point, and like if you do it with a neighbor, guarantee they're not gonna like
I would say that it's worth shopping around for one. The other thing you might want to shop for, and this I would not pay too much for it, is political secrets. The only reason I say that is because the only thing that can really hurt you as far as trade goods go, outside of the meta of the players, is there is an agenda that is very scary for you. And the agenda, basically, I forget what it's called, but the for or against is the for is everybody gets 5 trade goods, and then everybody just has 5. And the against is everybody loses all their trade goods.
Economic equality. And I'll say this much, too, to kind of interject there. Political secret, because it almost never sees play in a lot of groups.
Right.
Political secret is the one where when someone would go to vote, you can say that they don't get... You can prevent people from voting in the agenda phase. And the advantage of this is a lot of times people are kind of willing to give up political secrets. I've seen games where someone cut 4 people out of the vote.
Right.
Because they just bought it for a couple trade goods or whatever, little bits here and there. And then when the important vote, like economic equality or like shard of the throne, huge votes like that, you can just win those because you bought everyone's political secrets. So make that kind of like a long-term project. Don't buy all of them in one round because by the end you won't get anyone to buy it. But if you buy like 1 political secret every round or so, people will forget that you have other people's political secrets, and you can slowly just suddenly have this insurance policy on, I'm going to get at least 1 agenda that I want.
Right. And then also like the buying racial notes. Like we don't want to necessarily go through all the different racial notes you could buy right now. There's lots of good ones. I mean, the Mentak Promise of Protection one would be pretty good, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that you can use your commodities for is just to deter attacks or to encourage other people to attack each other.
Yes.
That we could probably do a whole episode on the things that you could try and convince people to do.
Yeah, again, the fact that you don't have to be neighbors means you can get in on anything at any moment. Right. Transactions can be done at any time. When one player is deciding what they want to do, you can just jump in and be like, I'll give you 4 commodities to attack the Yin Brotherhood. And you might get something out of it. I'm not saying I approve of that because usually your money is best used on yourself, but it goes the other way as well. As soon as someone's like, I'm about to attack Hacan, 4 trade goods not to do it. 3 trade goods not to do it.
Right.
Usually they're keen to go for it. They'll find a way to do their plan elsewhere.
And obviously you can use trade good, like just the trade goods you have banked normal style to buy all of these things too. We're more just saying that like, if for some reason you get in a situation where you just have 6 commodities sitting there, that's not so bad. And here are some things you should be thinking about.
Don't think you're ruined because you need to still be planning on how you're going to game the system is the thing. Some people just go, well, I didn't get it. I guess I'm not getting any money this round. It's like, nope, you're going to get something. Don't forget you can get something for those commodities. One other thing, we talked about political secret, but sometimes it's okay to hold on to trade goods during the actual agenda phase. I think we forget entirely that just like everyone can do transactions with anyone during the agenda phase, even outside of like revolved around a vote, but like you can buy votes, and more importantly, you can just get things done with people during the agenda phase if you need to. If people are outside of the kind of drama of the action phase, people are sometimes maybe more willing to make deals because it's not the immediate benefit isn't known. So you can get work done during the agenda phase, but more importantly, even if you don't have political secrets, you can buy votes. And if the agenda comes up where it matters, it's not a bad thing to have that money sitting there. What's the other really important thing?
Well, so we're going to talk at length at the end of this episode about trading action cards, but I want to just kind of mention before we get deep into that you should be looking to buy action cards as well. Action cards are useful for everybody.
Right.
The idea of me being like, oh, I got shut out of trade this round. Maybe I could take these 6 commodities and get a sabotage is really juicy.
Right.
Like, I want to have a sabotage every game. Everybody wants to have a sabotage every game. It's the best insurance ever.
You can do really weird things too. I'm not going to get too specific here, but I will point out, like, you can have a really weird relationship with Asarl. Right. Asarl's got a lot of junk action cards. Sometimes they want to keep them for stalling. Sometimes they're just really willing to sell kind of anything.
Right.
Also, that's a two-way street. You can sell action cards to Asarl, because to them, at the very least, it's a skip.
Right.
You can buy up people's worst action cards. Buy up that the wormhole. If Ghosts of Creuss get the wormhole action card, they can sell it to you for almost nothing. You can sell it to Asarl and maybe make a profit, because to them it is worth more as a skip than anything else.
God, it's like stuff like that where it's like, man,
Hacan is awesome.
We could have done a 3 or 4 part.
Right.
Come on.
The fact that you can broker any kind of deal. I mean, we're not going to get into brokering trade deals between two players because that gets complicated, but action cards is a very simple way to do that.
Well, I think the only brokered deal that has any potential really is action cards. Brokering like trade stuff never really makes sense. But let's go ahead and just get deep into action cards then. I want a little bit of a teaser for the next episode. I am more than likely going to recommend that your round 1 tech pick be Neural Motivator. That be the tech that you research. And for obvious reasons, you can trade action cards. Neural Motivator is best bought on the first round so that you maximize the potential of it.
Neural Motivator is worth more to you than any other faction in the game. It's worth more to you than it is to Asarl. Asarl starts with it, but Asarl could not start with Neural, and getting it would be more important to you than it would be getting it for Asarl.
Right.
Because your action cards can either be good action cards that are useful for you, or can be money or promissory notes or whatever you want them to be. Right. They are a resource. It is a better tech for you.
Right.
Across the board.
And people love, and we're going to talk more about sabotage right now immediately. So, the idea of buying a sabotage, cool, that's good. Now you have a sabotage. Honestly, this would not be crazy to me to buy a sabotage with the intent of selling it for support for the throne. Yep. The thing is, a lot of times people feel a need, depending on how their game's going, what situation they're about to get into. Maybe they're about to play flank speed, and they need it to work.
Right.
You sell them a sabotage, they might be willing to give you a point.
Yep.
Which I'll remind everybody, that's the whole game. If you get points, then you win, right? You guys remember that?
Yeah, I think a sabotage can easily be worth a point. And I want to point out that you should not sell a sabotage for much less than a point. A sabotage is worth a lot, and at some point, someone will see the value of that. Right. You should not be looking to just sell a sabotage to whoever. It is worth more than 6 commodities. It is worth
for sure
some juicy stuff, and you should hold on to them. I mean, in the same way that everyone should hold on to sabotages because you need it for that last-ditch effort thing, or oh my gosh, the worst thing ever just targeted me. You always should hold on to sabotages. That's how much Hacan needs to get for their sabotage they sell.
Right.
I think I even wouldn't love selling my only sabotage, but if I can get 2, one of those babies is definitely on the market.
I mean, I would sell my only sabotage for support for the throne. I know that I would. And I think I would just be like, all right, I'm just going to play safe and defensive. The thing is, Hacan is a passive race. So, the only reason you're going to need a sabotage is that somebody's trying to take advantage of you. You're probably not... A lot of Hacan games I don't feel like are going to end in a crazy action card play that got you there. They're going to end because you were able to buy all the VPs that you needed to buy. Right. That's the more frequent. I'm not saying that those stories aren't out there. They are. Don't at me. But I think in general, too, there's a philosophy of advertising the action cards that you have. You need to tell players hey, I have a sabotage. Even if that's not true, whatever, throw it out there. Just tell everyone what you have so that they know, because maybe nobody wants it right now, but maybe they will. Right. And then you'll get, and then you'll get to negotiate then at that point, obviously. You should always...
you need your cards to be kind of out in the open a little bit.
You need to tell people what you have.
Yeah. What are some other action cards that are of note? We're not going to go through we just did all the agendas last week. We're not doing that. But what are like some of the most important action cards to keep an eye out for, and who are our highest bidders?
Yeah, I think if you get Rise of the Messiah in your hand, you should really try and sell that to one of the more infantry races.
It can be useful for you. This is the problem with so many action cards, and why when I play Hacan, I actually have a lot of trouble selling action cards because I'm the type of player who really hates giving away power. It's the same reason I'm kind of a hoarder in my own life. I just don't like giving something away where it's like, that could have been useful later. Ugh. But so to give away Rise of the Messiah is sort of a scary proposition, especially since you have 3 planets in your home system. I mean, it's at least worth 3 ground forces on the thing that is hard to protect for you. But again, similar to Sabotage, what you can make out of it, how much you could potentially get from a Rise of the Messiah if you were to sell it to Soul or the Yin Brotherhood, you can get a lot for this action.
Not to get dirty, but Rise of the Messiah is frequently sabotaged as well. So you might not even get to pull off that Rise of the Messiah, and neither will the other person, meaning that they might give you something and not even get to use it.
Right.
And if that happens, well, so too bad.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
But I would say that Rise of the Messiah is a very high price. I mean, I want to support for the 3 and 4. I want something good. I want real good stuff.
Right.
And honestly, the races that won it, Soul, Yin, Arborek, who else? Necro probably wouldn't mind it. Most of them don't have promissory notes that I feel like would be super juicy to me. So yeah, you're looking for support. Another interesting one that Matt pointed out, and actually I can think of 2 races now that would want this, is Reactor Meltdown. It's not so much that there's only 1 Reactor Meltdown in the deck. And you're probably going to want to sell it to a SAR player or a Winu player.
Because they have the most threat of getting their, like, 99 times out of 100, SAR is the one losing their space dock to Reactor Meltdown. Now, the deal you're going to make here with SAR is a little bit different than the Rise of the Messiah deal. Because the deal you're going to make with SAR is, hey, buddy, you can either buy this action card at a high price, and it will block it from being used against you.
If you're SAR and you have Reactor Meltdown, you're going to get to use it against somebody else,
and it won't be used
against you.
If you don't take that deal,
I'm
using it against you right now, right this second. I am blackmailing you, but you're getting a lot out of it. Same goes for Winu if they established that space dock on Mechatol Rex and they really, really need it. You get in when the timing is right, and you say, I can either ruin your day, or you can make me a little bit wealthier.
Now, I'll say this, with deals like this, and I'm sure people are going to find a lot more situations like this, and I'm sure in your games you'll find a lot more situations like this. If you're going to extort somebody, you should do it at a time where they can help you. So let's say you've taken the trade strategy card. You have, this is actually a really fun, juicy thing to do that I'm thinking about. So you get your 3, you replenish your commodities, you make your deals with all the players. You get all of their all the trade agreements that you're going to deal with. Maybe you did a 2 for 2, a 2 for 2, and a 2 for 3. So you already made 1 extra. Then you go to SAR and you say, here's the Reactor Meltdown. Give me your trade agreement as well for free.
And I'll give you that.
And you can have that. And that's how you pull a power play as Hacan. Now, obviously, you can get punished for power plays. But
people may dislike you. And it is worth noting, like Hunter said, pick your timing. I have seen people... Hacan has the best room to blackmail people out of most any other faction. And I've seen people, and I've probably done it myself too, try to blackmail someone when it's like, the response is, what do you want from me? What am I supposed to do? What can I possibly give you? That's when you get the, no, I don't negotiate with terrorists. But when it's kind of like, oh, I guess I could give this up. Hunter did it. Hunter as Xcha blackmailed me, saying, I'll activate your system as Xcha and blow up all your stuff for free, or you can give me 3 trade goods. And I had to give him the 3 trade goods because I had the trade goods. If he had done it when I had no trade goods and he was just like, what are you going to do to not have me blow your stuff up? My response would have been, I'm going to do nothing because I have nothing. Do your worst, you jerk.
Now all you did was just give away and like
you made an enemy out of
right.
nothing.
You just made an enemy out of nothing, and you didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime you're going to extort someone, like look over their sheet, dingus.
Yeah.
See if they can actually pay for that. Another like kind of minor one we want to bring up is like if you get planet related, there's a lot of action cards.
Cultural planets.
Right. There's a lot of action cards that are associated with specific planets. Obviously, you want to look at other people's pie slice and make sure that this is actually useful for them. Another interesting situation is a lot of times people mismanage their command counters and they need a stall. This one's really interesting because I feel like you can get a lot of money for a bad card.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. If you have an action card that is to play as an action, it can be something that doesn't benefit them at all, but because it gives them an opportunity to play that card as an action and delay one round, depending on what they're trying to accomplish, you might get a lot out of them getting basically nothing.
Right. And I mean, always remember, like, if they don't have any commodities, go for that trade agreement.
Yes.
Like, get that trade agreement so that next time you can just negotiate with the rest of the players and potentially get everybody's trade agreement.
I think trade agreement is your go-to get in any game as Hacan. And everything else is kind of secondary to that. If you already have their trade agreement, or if they're a type of person who really doesn't like giving out their trade agreements, then you can make other deals.
Or if they're desperate. That's the other thing, too, is when you're trying to make these trades, like, if they're in a very desperate place, they might agree to something they wouldn't normally, like a support for the throne.
Sure. All right. I think that's all we have to say about this just, like, meta conversation about Hacan. Next week, we should have the real guide, and it will have the actual structure of a normal first round guide. We will talk about strategy cards. We will talk about tech path. We'll talk about counters and you know, interesting relationship with different factions. This was to just talk about this one aspect, and even that took us like an hour. So this is why we did this. This is a huge conversation. This is a huge race. When we did the initial introductory things about everything, trade was our biggest episode. It was our longest episode of this. For a long time, trade was the longest episode we had ever done, and Hacan, the conversation about Hacan was a huge part of that. And it still remains true. They are the hardest faction to talk about.
To nail down it all. I want to throw out some real quick special thanks to one particular fan of the show and also like Discord user. I just want to say that David S. Knorr in a lot of ways had a lot of influence on specifically this episode and really just like a lot of thoughts with Hacan in general.
He's got an interesting metagame, and that metagame specifically syncs up with what Hacan is doing. I've played lots of games with David, and his metagame doesn't always work very well. But it works best when there's a Hacan. It just seems like he knows what the relationship is supposed to be with Hacan. And when we finished that game where Unaligned Magi got eliminated, Hunter and I and David continued to sit down and talk for like 45 more minutes just about Hacan, and it helped us kind of get some of our ideas out there. So thanks, David.
But I would be remiss not to thank David, and I feel like a lot of some of the ideas in this episode were kind of born from the way that he conducts. I've never even seen him play Hacan. It was just like the way that he would conduct things. I was like, this is very like strategically beneficial for Hacan. So. All that there. We didn't get as many cat jokes in as I thought. We didn't really get much jokes at all. It was like a very serious episode. Hopefully we got a lot of the like work out of the way so that next time
again,
we speak,
be very vocal in response to this, because it will actually help us shape next week's episode much better if you give us a lot of responses to how you feel about the Hacan's metagame. Do you agree with a lot of the things we were saying? Does it seem like these things would work in your group?
Are there other ways to think about it as well? Do you have something to add to this episode? Because essentially, trying to go into this with there being no like level, just like this is how the Hacan play, going into it like that, like is very difficult because. Like, I mean, we hear about players all the time that make crazy deals with Hacan and, like, they let them completely snowball out of nowhere. And honestly, if that's the meta, then I don't know, like, I don't know how to make a strategy guide for that. But essentially, right now, what we're assuming is going into the guide next week, we're going to assume that you're taking trade and getting about 9 to 10 to 11 trade goods each time. Unless you guys tell us that we're wrong, and please do.
Speaking of next week, we're about to jump into the Ghosts of Creuss errata. Because we're structuring this the way we are, you can pretty much expect no errata next week, because all of the errata for this episode is basically going to be incorporated into the guide.
Right.
That's what this episode exists
We might even
for.
lead with errata.
Right. It might be errata first into the episode. So just kind of a programming note there. But let's Hunter, you want to dance on over to the Ghosts of Creuss?
Yeah. No. Can we make muffins on your like that thing that cats do where they go like yeah. We can do. We're gonna make muffins. Is that what it's called?
I've never heard it called
I've heard
that.
it being called that.
All right, let's go make some muffins.
All right, what's up, you cats? Hey,
muffins.
what you muffins? Oh yeah, did you make your muffins? Did you make? Like, somebody has heard of making muffins, and will you please message Matt and tell them what that is? It's just like when the cat touches.
I know the thing you're describing, but no one has ever called it making a muffin.
You're underneath the covers, and the cat like
they're kneading. It's called kneading.
Nah, they're like kneading dough. They're like kneading dough. They're making muffins.
I don't think that's how you make muffins.
I don't know how to make muffins, but I know that's what cats are doing. Anyways, it's errata time. We're doing errata for the Ghosts of Creuss episode. We skipped it last week. We kicked it down the road, and here we are at that time. No errata for agendas. No errata for agendas. Not doing it.
Yeah, not doing it.
What could we have
That was
wrong?
an open discussion just about all of them.
Yeah.
I'll say this much. Everyone liked that episode. I'm really
They
pleased.
did?
I'm pleased as punch that people liked that
I'm just
episode.
hearing that they
That's
liked
the
it for
errata. People liked the agenda episode. Here's the reason I'm excited by that, and I'll be open about this. It's just good to know that you and I can do things besides guides.
And people like it.
People will like it. Just so for you, dear listener, this show has a future. Hooray!
Yay!
He'll let us keep doing it.
We'll just read everything in the game.
First up from Board Game Geek Guild is Niguten. You're from a different country. I'm sorry. Here's your errata, though. Oh man, I'm slightly miffed about how downplayed the flagship is. 2 PDS on the home system and your red racial tech, and it's almost as good as the Extra flagship. Extra get 3 on a 6.
Can we take that again? But you make sure that people know that we're talking about the Creuss flagship, because we were like, oh, this is Creuss errata, and then I felt like that first line got lost. Somebody got lost there.
Fine. This one,
Hunter's the one who makes the calls. That's the thing, is actually I'm the one who says things like, no good, take it again.
This one's from Niguten.
Also, you made fun of him for being foreign.
I didn't make fun of him. I said I can't pronounce his name because they're foreign.
Because we have stupid American mouths. That you should have lowered yourself.
Well, I meant to lower myself. I just didn't come out of my stupid American
you're not
mouth.
low enough.
I'm not low enough. We're talking about the Ghosts of Creuss flagship. Oh man, I'm slightly miffed about how downplayed the flagship. It says it right at the top of it. Why do I have to? I'm not taking it again.
Is this all in there?
Extra gets 3 on a 6. PDS shots. Phil Collins gets 1 racial tech automatic hit and 2 PDS shots. In combat, Extra gets 2 on a 7 shots compared to the Phil Collins 1 on a 5. Movement-wise, the Phil Collins starts out by having +2 movement, which could be comparable to the deep space targeting from the Extra on its own. But then you get to instant transport from your home system to wherever your fleet is with the Phil Collins, but somehow the Extra flagship is a must and deciding factor of the race, but the Phil Collins is just good. To be fair, getting racial tech and deep space cannons requires a fair amount of effort, so I guess it isn't that amazing. You did it all for me. Thank you.
No, I'll add something.
All right.
The thing is, the difference is that what you're describing requires a real commitment of ships that might be destroyed.
And a commitment of the flagship itself.
Right. The Extra gets to shoot at other people. Just all it costs is the counter. That's it.
Yes, they don't have to send the flagship in to do the dirty work.
Your deep space cannons is helping you. It's just a different type.
Right.
It's a whole different type of attack, really, because this requires you got to commit ships, fight ships v ships.
Yep.
And the Extra just gets to shoot at you.
Right, and this also requires you to put 1 or 2 PDS in your home system, which requires you to take construction a couple times, which means you're not taking strategy cards that get you points. This also requires you to get deep space cannon on top of all the other tech we wanted you to get. It's
honestly,
on the list.
You didn't mention it, but you didn't get graviton. So how useful are those PDS shots?
Right.
If you got a fighter screen, then whatever.
So as a late game play, sure, this is cool, but it is not getting you any points. It's maybe helping in your last play of the game, but you pointed it out. It's so expensive to like center a strategy around that, but it's of course you can do that and you'll find opportunities to do it, but in no way in the guide was I going to in the guide was I going to spell out, like, this is what you need to have in your home system by round 6, because that's just way too specific to maybe not do anything for you.
Right.
That wasn't the point of the Ghosts guide. But I don't want to say your point is all bad. I want to tie it to Bitwolf from Reddit's point, because I think they kind of work in conjunction with each other, and that you both make each other more correct. So here's Bitwolf's point. Creuss's superpower is that they are very good at completing their secret objectives without revealing what it is. You guys said it at the end of the guide. Meander your way to 6 victory points and then score your secret and a public next turn. This is why I think you should go for Lightwave Deflectors. The problem Creuss often runs into in my experience is that their mobility can be really hard to make use of in the late game. Lightwave Deflectors solves this problem. I also feel that the flagship is often central to their strategy because of how well it synergizes with the rest of your advantages. With Gravity Drive and Slipstream, your flagship has a movement of 3 and can pull in an entire fleet from your home system with it. This lets you completely conceal what you intend to do with your ships. Oh, and did I mention it only costs 8 resources and that it protects planets extremely well because it can always blow up a carrier for free with Dimensional Splicer? Creuss is only an aggressive race for 1 turn, the turn where you win the game.
Dope tagline.
Dope tagline. I prefer this sort of mentality when thinking about what to do with the flagship over the crazy PDS shenanigans. If you can do PDS stuff, that is as an extra. That is not my goal as the Ghosts of Creuss. That's where I think a lot of Ghost strategies get hung up on, is like trying to make this PDS network earn you stuff. PDS are defensive for everyone except for like Xcha and a couple other, like you just, it's very hard to truly use PDS as a big time offense. You will maybe get lucky to use them. So thinking of ways to use Lightwave Deflectors, which also I was hesitant to recommend, but this is a good point, which is just to say the flagship can move its 2 or 3 movement past something, then pull everything from your home system that you've probably been stocking up through with it, and then maybe get all those extra benefits as well. All the things add up together very nicely, but the only thing in here that actually feels like a strong strategy and a thing I'm building up for is that thing of I'm going to win on 1 turn. I'm going to do well. I need to play solidly for the rest of the game, which is why I still think the ground forces, maybe advanced fighters, but like established control of things is the best play. And if that gets you to a good middle point, you have this ready to go to pull the final trigger, right?
Right.
It's Lightwave Deflector is a decent ability to be able to get any objective on the board. Gives you access to everywhere.
I feel a little bit iffy, though, about the idea, and I've seen Creuss players do this, of Creuss players that leave, like, most of their fleet in their home system. Like, it's cool that you can do that, like, deployment with the flagship, but, like, now what's protecting your pie slice? And like, and
where's
I realize,
your fleet?
I realize the counter to that is like, oh, well, you don't need your fleet out there because your flagship can just go to wherever you got attacked and unload everything, and that's enough deterrent. Well, it isn't though, because
you
now
gotta have a established pie slice.
The problem is this: what if I just steal a planet out from underneath you? Yep. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll lose the space battle, but what if you can't get the planet back from me? Wouldn't it just be better to have the ships in the space above the planet protecting it?
Right. Yeah, I don't like anything that promotes you to be even more stretched thin.
Right.
Or like kind of excluding spaces on your board. That's why I wanted wormholes all over my pie slice, because that's the best way to defend my pie slice and keep everything there ready to go when it needs to inevitably go.
Sneak attacks are cool, but if you have to be like really open and vulnerable in order to pull off a sneak attack, is it really worth it?
No, usually not.
Well, it's. I think that's the question. You know, there's no answer. It just depends on your game.
The next one feeds off of this same idea as well about secret objectives. And it's Evernoob says, the one thing that was missing from this episode is that Creuss needs to draw their secret objectives and filter out the ones that they can't complete. I would even advise not scoring them too soon and maybe score 2 or all 3 when you are at 6 victory points for a surprise win. I kind of pretty much wholly agree with this. You need to be doing the secondary of Imperial quite a lot. Because you need to cycle to get all of the best possible secret objectives. Ones that are all within your reach, and set you up for a really good last round.
I get a little scared though about when people talk about this kind of thing of like holding secret objectives and like scoring them in a weird way. Like, I mean,
if I have a tech secret objective,
oh yeah, why?
I'll hold it.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're talking about, is just like hold them until the moment you need to pull all the triggers at once and do it all, because if you take a lead and don't finish the job, you are easy to get crushed.
Just be careful though that you don't mess up. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, like, yeah, you're putting some eggs in baskets for sure. But
yeah, what if you end up
nature of
like Ghosts. I just feel like if you play this way and then like if you don't manage it correctly, you might end up in the final round of the game having 2 secret objectives that are scored in the status phase that you can score, but you can't do it.
Right. That's a sad predicament to be in. Get. I mean, then we're just talking about like have good objective management.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Can I do the next one?
Yeah.
This one's from Fugly Ugly Clone, Matt the Fat. You clone, you ugly. You guys missed the most important thing about Wormhole Generator. It allows you to put an A or B wormhole in your home system. Matt the Fat also went on to talk about how this synergizes with the promissory note, it being like you put a wormhole.
Get them all over. The point here is
this is another one with the like you need to have everything sitting in the home system.
Right. And we've kind of established I don't love the idea of just like having everything in your home system. Also, what they're talking about is with a promissory note, you would never be able to get an alpha wormhole in your home system because your ships can't be in the way. But if you take Wormhole Generator, you totally can. I have seen this as a possibility on my own boards before as Ghosts. I have never been able to convince myself to do it because to give access to everyone on the board to my home system just directly, no need for Lightwave Deflector. I mean, think about those 2 empty wormholes out there on the board. If I put the alpha in my home system, there are 2 alpha wormholes on the board.
Right.
I better have locked down control of those, or else I just opened up my home. I just put my home system on the middle of the board.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about
That's rough.
This.
That's really rough.
And again, all it's earning me is the chance to take a fleet of 9 big ships from my home system and put them wherever I want all of a sudden. I don't think the benefits outweigh the costs. That's it. That's all the errata for the Ghosts of Creuss. You guys posted more, but they all kind of boiled down to those points. I mean, that's the big thing about Ghosts of Creuss. Is just it always comes down to like, how do you actually score?
Yeah.
They have difficulty with that. They have difficulty of just like, how do you actually get the points, though?
Here's a random thing, actually, I want to say in response to the Matt the Fat thing, even though we sort of already moved on from it. One thing that I still feel like I really stand by in our episode is the idea that if you can get the promissory note out there, Wormhole Generator becomes kind of a dead tech.
Yep.
And like, I would really like to emphasize that I think in general, it's probably not a good idea. It's probably best to try and avoid having to get Wormhole Generator.
Yes.
If you can avoid it, because it is kind of a dead tech.
Wormhole Generator is the backup plan.
Right.
If everyone is just like, nope, screw you and your Creuss.
Because if you don't get Wormhole Generator, then what are you going to get? Lightwave.
Yeah.
More obviously useful. Or sorry, not Lightwave, Fleet Logistics, and then Lightwave.
Right.
But whatever.
So let's do some rundown. Let's get a play of the week in there. Let's wrap this thing up. Hit us up on Twitter, SpaceCatsPod. We do announcements there. Facebook is also where we do announcements, SpaceCats Peace Turtles. Every week we post on Reddit, Twilight Imperium, Reddit/r/Twilight Imperium. That's where these posts are. You can join the discussions. When you join in the discussions there, that's how we pull our errata. We take it from there. We don't tend to take errata from email or Facebook or Discord or anything like that. Usually we go straight to Reddit, as well as our Board Game Geek Guild that also has our calendar there that is constantly getting changed because we're always wrong about what episodes we're doing next. You can email us submissions for This Imperium Life and Plays of the Week at spacecatspieceturtles@gmail.com. Please consider contributing to our Patreon, Space Cats Peace Turtles. It helps make our podcast better. It helps us go to Gen Con. Things are getting more and more real every day with Gen Con. We're starting to have meetings with the people that are going with us. It's getting really scary and cool and exciting. And the possibilities are starting to show themselves of what we're going to be able to do. And I can't wait. So if you want to help us with that, please consider contributing to our Patreon.
You're going to see our faces so much.
Yeah, you're going to keep looking at us. We also have a Discord I mentioned earlier. You can join that Discord and take part in fun conversations. That's also where you get most of your Patreon benefits, like contributing to upcoming episodes and doing Galactic Council votes. And finally, please rate us on your podcast app of choice. It increases visibility and makes more people know about Twilight Imperium, which we all want because we want more people to play with us. And it gives more visibility for our podcast, which, is nice because we like making this for you. And the more people that see it, the more reasons we have to do it. So thank you. Hunter, who do we want to thank from our Patreon?
I want to thank Rolo, Ledgerman of the Coons. I want to thank the fabulous Chris O'Show. And I want to thank Norman Ma.
Wonderful. And Hunter, you have some comedy dates coming up.
Yeah, so my name is Hunter Donaldson. Hi, you've been listening to the show, and I've been a little bit part of it. But I am not only on this show, I am also a stand-up comedian in the Portland, Oregon area. And I have some dates I want to throw at you. On Saturday, June 2nd at 7:30 p.m., I will be doing a show that I run with several friends of mine. It happens in the backyard of a friend of mine's house. It is a very cool show.
Yeah, I want to preface, that sounds weird and sketchy and like a lame thing. I've been to this show before. It's really cool. It's just a different take on doing a stand-up comedy show. It's not just we put it in my friend's backyard. They built a stage in this backyard. It is a show. It is a cool, fun thing.
There is a treehouse. There is beautiful lighting.
Yeah.
There will be beer available there. I will say this: if you come to the show and you say, "Hey, I'm from Space Cats Peace Turtles," you are not paying for any beer that night. You will be. The drinks are for free. I will tell you that. The show is called. It's a stupid title. I came up with it because I'm stupid. It's called Comedy Party House Show Comedy, and it will be happening on, like I said, Saturday, June 2nd. Starts at 7:30 p.m. And the address, this is the part that feels weird.
It's not a venue. It is, again, this house.
The address of my friend Adam's house, who knows that I'm doing this. And he is excited and loves the show, and he's very good. His address is 6346 North Maryland Avenue. That is in Portland, Oregon. That is the north side of Portland. All right, so...
that was weird.
That was weird.
It's a fun show, and you should come to it.
It's very good. It's a very special time.
If you're nervous about going to comedy shows, this is the best one to go to as a starter.
This is the best show that I run. Is this show, and it will be happening a couple times this summer. But obviously, it's a summertime thing. Some other shows I want to tell you about. On Saturday, June 9th at 12 p.m., you can come to Yolks and Jokes at the Lamp. That is a brunch time comedy show during the daytime. It's very fun. Again, similar to my other offer, if you come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm from Space Cats Peace Turtles," you will get a mimosa from this guy for freebies. And then
what are we selling things that we're just selling alcohol now?
Well, I just want Space Cats people to come out to comedy, and I just want there to be a special little.
You gotta entice
I want you to come, and I want you to feel special because I'm going to treat you special. And then this last one is very important for me in a very specific way. On Tuesday, June 26th at 10 p.m., I will be at the Helium Comedy Club performing in the Portland's Funniest Person contest. This is a contest where the eventually funniest person in Portland will be crowned. They will win a cash prize. They will be, most importantly, working at Helium, which is currently my goal as a comedian. I would love it if you would come. I would love it if you would vote for me if you feel like I was the funniest person in the round. Again, it starts at 10 p.m., June 26th at Helium Comedy Club. If you would like to go, the tickets are $10. This is the only one of these events that costs money. However, if you're really into it, you can call the Helium Comedy Club ahead of time and say, "Hey, Hunter Donaldson told me to buy tickets," and then they will give them to you for $5. It would mean so much to me if you would come out and see me do this show. And come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm from Space Cats, and I won't get you anything for free there because it's a little not
kind of pricey."
Well, I don't get anything for free there.
This one's a big deal, and I hope people do come out for that one because this competition is not a joke. It's kind of a lot of Portland comedians' careers are sort of made.
It is the most important part of the year for Portland local comedians.
Yeah.
It is a big deal. And I've competed in the past and done well, and I hope to do well this year. I think I probably will. Right. Also, in general, if you don't you hear me talk about this comedy stuff and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, just go on YouTube and type Hunter Donaldson comedian, and there are 2 clips there, and you can watch it and be like, oh, okay, I'm into this. This is my kind of thing. thing. I think if you like silly, goofy humor, like some of the stuff that we do on the show, you'd probably be into it.
Yeah.
Let's do the play of the week.
Let's do the play of the week. This one is from Federico. I believe Federico is Edoweir on Reddit. I'm pretty sure that's true. But he emailed this one to us, and it's about Hacan, and it's about trading as Hacan.
Ooh, can I do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a Hacan player. All I want from my games is to establish peaceful borders, trade with my many friends, and ensure peace and prosperity for myself and my soon-to-be loyal subjects. So he's trading. He's just doing it right. He's making buddies. He's trading with his friends. It's great. Thus, however, when one of my neighbors decided to take a tech specialty planet that I owned for a while, I first tried to negotiate. Take it next round, I said. I'll research one more, and then we can work it out. It was a very tech-heavy game, so these planets were fairly contested. I had occasionally offered people money to conquer a planet or facilitated similar deals, among others, so I thought a trade could work. If the timing was to my advantage, that is. But no, he wanted it now. He was not to offer me trade goods or other assistances. He just said he needed it, that it wasn't personal, and that he wouldn't take anything else, and expected no retaliation. Boy, he was wrong. I got completely crushed in the invasion as his fleet trampled my mere symbolic defenses. The planet was his. He simply smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't push further." Right. On my turn, I look at all the other players, and as most of my diplomacy kind of rested on the idea that, sure, I had plenty of tech and cash, but I was playing very light in military terms. I thought it prudent to ask, is it okay with you guys if I build some fleet? I want to take that back, and I did not like the move. A couple players snickered and gave me a thumbs up. I spent some time gathering resources, calling in favors and so on, then go for my home system to build. Slowly, I pull out a bunch of fighters and ground troops. Quite a bit, in fact. I needed tokens. People are smiling. Then I got a carrier. People nod. Then 2 dreadnoughts. Some people are snickering now. Then I add a war sun. Wait, when did you get war sun tech? Some ask. Another war sun. Now everything is dead silence. I look at my neighbor. Don't worry. I won't push further.
That's a story from TI3 Hacan, actually. But that just goes to show, like, that's what Hacan is capable of.
Right.
If you establish this bankroll, you can just turn things around in an instant. If you have one good round, suddenly your fleets can become this terrifying, dominating presence on the board. And that's what we're going to try to help you do next week. Let's get out of here. We've talked enough. Hunter, you look like you have a final remark. Go ahead.
I just want to say, like, good job, team. Matt, I think we did good. I just want to say maybe next week, like, try with more cat jokes, maybe pictures of cats, maybe more like meowing.
I'm gonna be rehearsing some cat jokes throughout the week.
Yeah, just like fun cat stuff, and maybe like you have a cat, Pat.
Yeah.
Is the cat's name.
Matt's cat, Pat.
Yeah, and maybe
How
like
about that?
if Pat could maybe open the show, that might be good.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And like, you know, I think it was a decent episode, but it could have been better in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I kind of feel like I brought a lot to it, and then like, you know, it was like, what is this guy doing?
Well, Hunter,
here? You know
I want to thank you for really giving it your all this week,
Right.
And just really contributing to the team and the spirit.
I
want
to thank Matt for contributing to the Patreon, and by that I mean making it.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles. And thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.